Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central. And tonight, yeah, it is tonight, Friday, August the 24th, 2018. And I'm joined by my good friends, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. And good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
So, BZ has had the chance to, for a few moments at any rate, lean against a tree or two, and you had some interesting titles to play with come in. And so we're going to talk about releasing overwhelm and choosing what we want to keep on the deck of, of life as we go here. So first of all, if you don't mind my asking, I don't know why this came in just now. It did. Would you mind can you like put yourself back where you were when this happened for you and describe how it happened for you when this topic came in?
Oh, for today? Yeah,
yes.
This one I can do a little, make a note to ask me that in the next one, because that's the really fun answer.
Well, maybe that's why that came up in this one.
Yeah.
Because I've never done that before, and I felt nudged to ask you that for some reason. So,
okay. So this one, I was at work and having a conversation, and someone was sharing a story about something that was going on with a friend of theirs, and then that person, wandered off, and I was waiting for this next thing I had to do at work. There was somebody else coming, and I was just kind of waiting so I could let them in. And something about what had just happened made me kind of tune into their overwhelm. And I remembered a time of, clearing the decks, or actually, as I had did it back then, was choosing what, here's my perfect new deck, metaphorically. And of all the possibilities, and the stuff, linearly, what would I choose? Because oftentimes in overwhelm, it's, kind of, we're pushing through, slogging through, and then there's the have to energy, or the if I can just get through energy. And so I was remembering to a time where that wasn't working for me. So I kind of stood for a moment and flipped it and thought, well, if I'm choosing, then I'm creating, then I'm going that and sparkly and that, and then go and all of that dematerializes or lands in someone else's happy picture. And so it was a way for me to flow in that. Anyway, so that was how it came in. I remembered a couple of big times where that happened to me in my life. And
so do you mind if I repeat what I think I hear you saying? Because I want to make sure what I'm grokking from what you're saying is that there was a time when you were in overwhelm, like apparently this person that you'd experienced being in their field today, and you were remembering back to a time when in the choosing that you decided to do, helping A, to alleviate that overwhelm, and B, begin something completely different in your life. Right. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Yeah. Okay. So at that point, you were making some choices as to perhaps what to release to alleviate that overwhelm, right?
Yeah, actually, it's funny, when you ask me something like this, it seems a simple question, but since it's kind of backing through it, it's so the thing that was in front of me, linear conversation happened, and that went away, and I was just had a few moments where I just had to stand where I was waiting, and so I was leaning against a pole, and, you know, enjoying the nature that was around me while I waited for the gates and the gates that I had to open, and kind of musing, just not too heavily, about what had just transpired. And I got taken back to a time, one particular time when this had happened, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. But it was just a fleeting thought. And then I thought, and then I started a whole conversation with my soul about, well, that would be a helpful thing to play with, because a lot of things people are going through with that. And I said, okay, I'm open to that. And as soon as I said that, then I was actually right back in the, you know, in the linear terms, back in that space, standing in one of the scenes of what had gone on. And then kind of moved through rapid fire a bunch of scenes, and then I was back leaning against the thing, and I thought, well, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You know, I made a note to write it down so I didn't forget, and then, you know, whatever moment had clicked by, and what I was waiting for showed up, and
Right.
Well, cool. Thank you for that momentary lapse on that. But I obviously there's a reason that I asked that question in the way that I did, but I'm not.
Yeah, and it, you know, it illustrates. Actually, we'll illustrate some stuff for the next conversation, but it illustrates that we get you know, we get guidance, we get nudges, we have conversations all the time, and in being actually in conversation, so subject to one another, so my soul and I, and that flow, it'd be just like you or I, you know, say, well, you know, what do we feel that we want to talk about, or we're playing with it that's coming for us or coming up for other people, or, you know, it's the same kind of a thing. I just, on that layer, did it multidimensionally, because I was actually back in, let's see, that was the time frame that I went back to was 2011 was that time frame. And for me, one of the most poignant things about that was that overwhelm can be pretty dang overwhelming, and can make you feel pretty small, and, you know, because you're looking at the mountain of, you know, overwhelm, and you're going, again, getting smaller, you know, and but you're at the genesis of that. You're at the center of it. You're at the direction of it. You're at the behest of it. You're at the mercy of it. You know, there's lots of ways that you can hold depending on perspective, right? You know, so we kind of walked around the overwhelm pile over here, and then got a view over there. Got a view. Maybe you climbed up on the pile, and, oh, you know, kind of stuff, so that you're. And there, you know, it sounds kind of funny, but I will do that, where I actually get, you know, I'll actually move, so I get a different perspective. I can put myself in a different perspective. I can widen out. But sometimes, for me anyways, if I was stuck, and, you know, I would try and so I would thought, okay, well, if I stand over here and turn 3/4, maybe sit down, so, you know, it really did work. It may sound silly, and it may have looked odd, but, you know, and in all of that, and this was something that I had luckily learned a long time before that, but this was a particularly big mountain. This was when I was just about to be homeless. So it was a fairly good sized mountain. And what I was part of the overwhelm pile was all of my things that, you know, and so I went through what I really wanted to keep, and I had a lot of paintings, a lot of photographs, a lot of everything, you know, and so some stuff I sold, but it just was there. I thought, well, you know how can I recreate this so that I'm at the direction of it instead of the other way around. And part of that was realizing that this was a terrific direction that I was going in. Okay, that was hard to. It's really great. Oh yeah, right. Keep telling me that, please. Come through that, and I did. That this part of the river that I was sailing down was a great direction, and it was going to be stupendous, and more even stupendous if I could shift. Instead of being, flowing down the river and the river's got whitewater rafting and, and coming behind me and chasing me, to the other way around where I was cruising down the river. And this was part of the scenery, and it was sublimely delicious. So I was able to do it. And, maybe that's a whole other conversation. But anyways, I was able to do that and shift this here with the overwhelm. And so the reason that came as part of the leaning against the pole was because there are some tools in that I think can be helpful for people whatever they're at. It could be a little overwhelmed mountain or a perceived big mountain like I had, and your perception and perspective and how you're flowing with things and how you're playing with or not, are you getting chased down, or are you going, oh no, I got this, and kind of orchestrating in a different way, because and here's kind of the irony. So we are doing that anyways. We are orchestrating it anyways.
Yeah.
And so are we orchestrating that we're noticing and aware that we're orchestrating, and we're joyfully orchestrating it, and this particular is the thing? Or are we orchestrating that this is happening, and we're orchestrating that we're running as fast as we possibly can from this while this is, big thing comes down the road, stomping us. And so that's part of what else we're orchestrating. Then we're orchestrating as go, all right, quick! Because it's really all the same thing. And actually, in the journey of going, hang on a minute, wait a minute, I'm doing this, okay, and it's really wonderful because the light bulb goes on, and that's metaphoric and literal and physical, and it's really stupendously delicious when that happens. And then you can use that for all sorts of things.
And so in the idea of releasing overwhelm, I will say for myself, now this hasn't happened to me so much anymore recently, and perhaps only because opportunity hasn't presented itself thusly. Or I should say recently.
You just wait, honey.
Yeah, I know, right? Especially now that I'm getting ready to open my big fat yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I know.
This is fine.
Right. Check in with me this time next week. But no, seriously, I have not in recent little while been so overwhelmed that I haven't been able to pull myself out of it. However, I have in the past had overwhelm, and then I don't know, sometimes for me, a bit of procrastination also sets in, because every time, I might go to tackle that, I just look at that, whatever it is, and go, oh. And, now, like I said, it's been a really long time since that's gone on. And that's what I'm saying. Part of that could be situational. Part of that could also be, a lot of it, to be honest with you, I think is because, well, I don't know, a lot of the growth that has occurred in me since I've been hanging out with the two of you. Well, and okay, so listening to myself too, I'll give myself that. But so do either one of you have anything that you might offer to help someone who, or, just, okay, not help, because honestly, everybody, all of us have to help ourselves, but ideas or thoughts that they might try to, that could assist if you're feeling overwhelmed in where to begin to look. I mean, I know every situation is going to be different if you're having overwhelm of one sort or another, but I'm sure the two of you in particular might have something you could offer that would help, like in an overall situation, if someone wanted to at least try for themselves.
You want to go first?
Well, yeah. Because I've been kind of experiencing a little overwhelm myself in the last couple of days. So it's, I guess, for me. Yeah, so I guess I felt now, overwhelm sometimes doesn't have to be, okay, here's the surprising thing about overwhelm. One can be overwhelmed with all the wonderful, exciting things one has invited into one's life. And it shows up, and it's overwhelming. Yeah, because that's exactly what I experienced. I wanted communication, and I'm getting it.
And they really, oh, shut up now. Stop calling me.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. I'm getting, and I'm also finding myself opening up and going, yeah, I can play with all of this. And then 2 seconds later, all of a sudden I feel really puny and maybe not quite ready or a little not sure of myself. And that feels overwhelming too. So, I have been working on just those things for myself, Sheila, trying to find tools now, because I have discovered that and this is part of the overwhelm as well, sort of my old autopilot ways of doing things, tools that come quite natural to me because, say, I've been working with them the last 20 years. Don't seem to hold water in this moment of now. It's just
it's next video.
Okay. So I'm trying to explore ways to cope with what is right now, and what is right now for me is extremely fluid. So I'm finding that that moment of overwhelm can very quickly, if I catch it immediately and be conscious of it, first of all, the overwhelm comes with a swell of emotion that wants to sort of take me over. And so I'm kind of allowing it. I'm just sort of going with, I'm catching on that wave, and I'm just feeling the emotion. And I'm sensing it as an honoring of the emotion. Like, it's real, it's valid, it's here with me now, I'm just with it. And then I release it in gratitude. Thank you for the visit. Generally, I learned something in that space of just being with it, allowing it to flow. And then in the releasing of it, I feel ginormous. Like, I'll just feel this enormous, I'm doing this because it feels that way. I don't know if it's a breathing, it's a throbbing, it's a feeling that you feel. It's very visceral. And if I can get to that spot, like, that's my spot where I can take anything, and it's like it's all workable clay, moldable clay. And if I can get into that position of sort of allowing the emotion to wash and do its thing, honor it, love it, send it on its way. Now I can take the situation and refocus, reframe, and sort of narrow how it is that I wish to hold it, or what I wish to form or reform, if you will. So I will, embrace the new form that I want it to hold. And I'll feel it wang and morph until it is the new shape, just inside of me. And it's really a feeling that I'm speaking of here. Because it's really that overwhelm is just an energetic too. That's really just a feeling. And so I'm taking it and I'm working with it in a way that feels more empowering to me and helps me to get to that place of feeling whole again, and I can feel my aperture opening and staying open, because afterwards I'll have the moving trucks and a nappy do will be there. And then I wake up and I feel fantastic again and really, really energized and ready for the next overwhelm. Because they're kind of coming fast and furious.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I can feel the energy.
I thought that was cool. I was just making some notes. You were, I had some, when Sheila asked that question, I had some come in, and they mirror, I think, a lot of what you just said. I was on the tack of describing them in a little bit more linear way.
Oh.
Well, no, because when people are over on overwhelm, they go, what? But that's exactly what I was thinking as well. So the two things that kind of come to mind as a tool is the balance between tool. And so I'll try to describe this as linearly as I can. So part of it is that is the pause, and part of the actions of the tool is on one side you're pausing and you're breathing into something. And so if you're feeling rushed or you're feeling pushed, or if there's like a stack of paperwork or a stack of things that you want to do or something on the job, or kind of balancing the job with, doing the integration of your work and, inner work, all that kind of stuff. So kind of the energetic work balance and the linear work and family and whatever it is. So in that balance, so the first, let's say it's a balance. So on one hand is what I call the pause and breath. So you're pausing for a moment and you're breathing through whatever stage, whatever's in your view right that moment of the overwhelm. Is it the whole enchilada of the overwhelm? Is it just one piece? And you're not judging it. It would be another way. You're kind of noticing it, but mostly you're just feeling it. Everything is just paused from. You haven't stopped. You haven't turned direction. You haven't run screaming. You just pause for a moment, and you're just breathing and realizing that you still can breathe. And okay, well, world didn't collapse, so that's part of it. And that also is a moment. In that moment, you're giving yourself permission to just. You don't have to rush to do all this stuff. In fact, you've actually stopped time, if you will, in all of that rushing. So it's just a pause moment. And you're balancing that with the other side. What did I write down here? So, and that is on, so the metaphor that came up was how to place your foot. If you're looking at this path through your overwhelm, so, and you're looking down at this magical path, what's illuminating of where to step next? But you are stepping next. Because, so this is over here, instead of shutting down, this tool keeps you from shutting down and lets you be more comfortable in just pausing so that you're okay. You are okay. And you don't have to do a bloody thing about any of the overwhelm right now. You're just okay right in this moment.
All right.
And then because, the kind of the push me, pull you fight that goes on in the mind, but I have to do that. You don't understand, okay, right? Okay. Well, that's part of the balance. So that you are taking a step. You're choosing the step. You're seeing what part and where and how lights up for you. So you are moving forward. You haven't, you know, if you give into the overwhelm, that's going backwards, let's say, right? So
Right.
you're not going backwards, you're pausing. And that's actually really positive forward momentum because it's not going backwards.
Right.
And you're balancing that with then taking the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first tool. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like a couple things. One, changing your perspective and widening your aperture just to kind of take everything in and give yourself a break. Kind of the energy, again, very linear words. Give yourself a break, and you got to get off it and get on it and get going. So it's a kind of that's another way to say that. And when you're feeling through it, even if you're, you know, not in the habit of reading energy or having colors light up for you, you can actually come from a space where you're softer to whatever this is that's out there that's causing the overwhelm. And as I keep saying, because it keeps coming up more and more in the field of what's, you know, unfolding these days, what in that pile of overwhelm are you beholding that's lighting up in a luminescent kind of a way that's maybe, you know, a footfall, you know, take the next step, or, oh, I'm going to start with this part because in taking that thread from the pile, that piece of paper, that one to do, whatever it is, from an energetic perspective, which, remember, translates into the materialization in more physical reality, that one will unwind and unbind a lot of stuff out in the physical so it actually just disappears. Will unwind and unbind the energetic threads within me that are kind of like in this wuzzle ball here, and will also show me direction to move forward. So it's kind of, on the one hand, it resolves a lot of things and illuminates the path so that everything seems easier. So that's one of them. I'm not sure if I described that clearly, but another overriding thing with that is that we're in the moment now where there's no really other way to put it than to let things fall away, because they are falling away. And in trying to hold them, trying to go at them the way we used to, or to, you know, rush through it, or kind of grab them up and I got to do this, or whatever, you know, your metaphor is for doing it. It's actually not working, and you're making it not work even faster. And so, you know, your picture that might be is that the brick wall just fell on your head, kind of.
Right.
Where you can actually, if you go for what illuminates, you can take one brick out of this wall that you're going, are you nuts? If I take that's in the middle, or that's, you know, over here, and that will take, you know, it seems like, but if you, again, because what it's doing is it's allowing you, that's the wrong you're being presented with this. It's allowing you to trust within you and your core instead of out there.
Yeah.
It's allowing the center to be here. So something will illuminate. You'll go for it, and using a metaphor, you'll go for the brick in the wall, the pile of overwhelm wall, and you'll pull it, and you'll realize that, and there's some kind of, I don't know if it's a Lego thing, but as you do that, you pull it, all of the other bricks seem kind of rearranged. Either now they come into stairs for you, or, you know, so they've created a new shape. Nothing falls. Actually, it expands in a way that's go, oh, wow, you know, that's a new shape. I can see how I can do that. I can see how a lot of this is already taken care of. And, so again, from a linear way, it could be if you're thinking about tangible stuff that's maybe like tasks that you need to do. By doing that, you'll find all of a sudden help and ways to get it all taken care of, shows up out of the blue. Somebody says, if you've got kids, it may be some friend of one of your, parent of one of your kids' friends calls up and says, I've got some time and I'm going to make it a day with the kids. I would love to have, so-and-so with me, for the day and whatever. And if you could use that, you'd like to, So in other words, these things kind of magically appear. So that's part of the reslotting. And it gives you space to breathe.
I'd like to go back and ask you, if you will, because I heard a question in that. Those are great, what you gave there, but I did hear a question in that, and that is, when in overwhelm, and looking at that, when you say what illuminates, would you mind expounding on that? I feel like I'm comprehending what you're saying, but just in case, because I did hear a few. Well, what does she mean by that?
Okay, so it's going to be different for different people, just because it'll show up differently, and if you're not used to allowing that to happen, to noticing it and allowing it, it's happening all the time, you're just not noticing it, so you're not allowing it.
Well, right? Actually, you just you said exactly what I wanted to hear, actually. First of all, it's the noticing.
Right.
Because if there's not the noticing, then it's not going to light up for you. That's part of it.
Well, no, it's lighting up. It's just you're not noticing. So it
well, that's what I meant. That I guess
off Rocket's red glare, and there's a trombone section, the whole 9 yards. And since you're not noticing more, you think you kind of say, it's a combination of not noticing and the because you're saying it, right? So that would be the first part. Now, if you're already kind of, when I say that, you go, oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so maybe you're having that blocked off. So it will then happen for me. If I was be standing in front of a brick wall and there were some spaces I could grab a brick, and I would be using this tool, which I have still do, although I haven't used it recently, but I would say, show me when I'm on this hand side. And I'd just be soft, not, okay, where's that brick, right? But soft. And what's the wall going to show me? And for me, it will actually illuminate. It might have a shift in color, maybe like the brick is glowing a little bit, or that it may illuminate with a different, actual different color than the brick to it. So it's like, the brick's inner glow is coming out and it's saying, this one. That's it. Literally illuminate for me.
Okay, and
that's not metaphor. That's actually
that
brick right there does this.
I got that. I because I know that you see color and you can actually see, because you've mentioned before, like when my color has changed, the colors that you see coming off of me have changed. So I get that, and I know that all of us have different things that that we see or we feel like that. I guess what I wanted to make sure of, because that is something that I would imagine develops. That's part of that exercising that quantum muscle is something that you and Lisa both have done for some time. And so for me, things lighting up are just coming on board for me, not really. I know a lot of it has to do with my focus and attention as well, but I'm just saying that. So in the terminology of illuminating, in your case, it lights up specifically, it changes and things like that. I wanted to say for me, because I know I take that as a metaphor as well.
Yes.
So that, yeah, through the noticing of different things, I like what you said about the asking to be shown. And then, of course, that's where the noticing, you have to be paying attention once you ask and be aware of how subtle the answer can come.
Yeah, or not subtle at all. It's our reaction. Are we? So you can notice something, and something can illuminate for you, the way I just described it for me. But it can also illuminate for you in a feeling, in a sensing, in as you're scanning this wall, because that's what we're using right this moment, and you come by and you something makes you turn back.
Okay.
You change color, you don't feel nothing, but you just wait a minute, that's a noticing. That's a sensing of something. That's actually illumination for you. Mm-hmm. And that it could be that's a reminder to trust, because something actually did illuminate in various different ways, in auditory, feeling, sensing, color, whatever, or a combination thereof, right?
Right.
But you discounted it. And the reason I say that on that one is because you can't place it, but it caught, you went back like this. Yeah. And in that for me is a really good sign that I passed right over it. I saw it. It did whatever it did. I said, yeah. And I kept, it's kind of like a demonstrable, it's like, or you have a thought, don't put that bucket like that because it's going to tip over. And you put the bucket right like that, and you go back to do something, and there's no one near the bucket. There's no reason the bucket, but the bucket tips right over it. Or whatever, or the shelf or the papers, and I just described something that happened to everybody. And they heard, don't do X, Y, and Z, and they pay no attention. And usually that happens, and then it's, and it's like, I just busted a gut laughing, going, thank you. I got it. So it's part of that noticing and illuminating, and you may be able to actually say, hey, I saw that illuminate in a color or a glow or something. You can also say, I saw it illuminate and glow in a color, but you may not have seen it from your physical eyes. You may have sensed it from your third eye, or you may have sensed it because in a kinesthetic way, you can read the color differential, right? So again, don't get hung up on the either the words that you would use to describe it or someone else. Just get a sense of that.
Right. I just wanted to, point it out that it's more than just lighting up or something like that, because it can be all of those things. And that, because I was taking that to mean much more than just.
It could make a noise for you.
Right.
It could make a vibration. It could make a chime or a ring or,
Or like it's happened to me, I'm just drawn to that one right there. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
But we're going to go with it because I don't know why.
Because it's calling to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So.
Yeah. So that's, when you're hearing myself or anybody else, just, again, take those as metaphors, and they could be actual, and or metaphorical all at the same time. Okay. And just see how that feels, so it's the kind of feels like, sounds like, oh, it's an experience that you've taken with you, mm-hmm. vicariously taking it with you. And now you go, oh, okay. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. Wow.
And you want me to do the other one that came up?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, in these moments right now, This overwhelm is much more common. It's much more widespread, like in, in this focus and this focus and this focus and this focus of my life, right? That people are experiencing. And everything is resolving. Everything is coming to completion. Everything is coming to a close. And then you could say giving birth to that which is new. Okay. So in this moment, it really is, and it's funny because this is about feeling. I was talking about choose what lights up for you and feeling through it. So that's kind of a step on the question you just asked of what I described as the first tool. So a simple linear way to put it is there's too much flotsam and jetsam and stuff, useless baloney ridiculousness in all of our lives, even if one has been clearing and cleaning for a long time. And it has not served, if it ever really served, okay, that's questionable. It's not serving now, and now is the time to sift through it. That could be sifting through your closet. It could be sifting through your to-do list. It could be sifting through, I want to play with this. It could be sifting through the job. So you can use that as linear and metaphor, both in combination in everything. Yeah. And in this, there's a choosing. But when I created this tool and played with it, and all of these things that I give reference to, it was the head banging or come up with a tool.
Right.
So after repeated head banging or come up with a tool, I thought, okay, well, I think I'm going to go with the tool because I got a really hard head. It's not working.
Not sure the head can handle much more.
So in that, when I developed this, the choosing had more of a feeling of I got to pick one and leave the other. So I didn't like that.
Okay.
So you had to pick one and what?
Leave the other.
Leave the other. Okay.
So, like you can only keep 3 things. You got to choose which ones and you leave the rest.
Yeah.
So again, that rang to me as, okay, well then I have to give up something, which then made me spin into, well, the false construct was doing that yet again. And, then I went off into spinning on that for a while. And so I thought, I need to reframe this. So instead it was, what's lighting up for me? What's glowing, showing color, whatever it is? What am I feeling into that? Mm-hmm. Right? So it was for me then, it was a combination of both of those that wants to come forward. So I'm realizing that I'm going to sort and sift and let all of this go. And the most expansive things, the most abundant things, the most really cool, jazzy, spectacular things, and they would hold different shapes and different linear places in my reality, right? Would speak to me, and I would take those. Now, the first couple times that I did that, I'd say, okay, I was told 3. I was having a really hard time with that, which got me spinning into the whole thing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to quit spinning, but I'm taking 5. That was my, barter ring. Okay. Works great. Whatever you want. And I thought, yeah, I heard that. But I'm still doing it. So I go through the process, and for some reason, because I had that, because I wasn't trusting completely, I was trusting enough to do it and to be 100% committed to it. But had the blockhead still, so I was going with the 5. And then it was fairly easy to pick. 3 were easy right away. And then, I had to add these 2 other ones on, which were quite as easy. And so I got them and went into it.
Wait a minute. Hold up a second.
Yeah.
Your microphone is going downhill.
Gotta dust it out.
So 3 were easy. Did you hear that part?
Yes. It's not the
Not
greatest.
very good, but we did hear it. 3 were easy.
3 were pretty easy, and the other 2 took longer to pick. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, and then I went, so the rest of the stuff I let go. So that was metaphoric, that was tangible, that was take that off the list. It was, whatever the metaphor at that time, and I say whatever was literally happening at the time, which I use as the metaphor for that story, right?
Right.
So I travel a little bit down the unfolding of that. And the 3 things that were easy to pick really unfolded into amazing, abundant, and cool things, just as the whole conversation of doing this tool had said. And the other 2, the 4 and 5 that Blockhead had to pick, to have that, yeah, they were okay, but they were kind of like, just along for the ride and not doing much. And I thought, yeah, oh, well, I'm going to give listening a try.
Why not?
I can't guarantee I can get off it enough to keep listening, but so anyway, so that's part of one moment in my progress of doing that. But it is trusting. It is, it's kind of how like these conversations we have. There's pieces of different ones that you can help use. So those 2 tools seem simple, or maybe too simplified, but they're actually incredibly powerful because what they do is they change your happy rainbows. They change your actual physical, what it is that you're working with, and they shift the way that you're not only holding your energy and emitting your energy and what frequency you are emitting it at, but also it's almost like an auto zoom to widen out your aperture. And that was, I think, maybe one of the things, just because of a programming note here, for me, that a lot of these things were incredibly simple. And at the time, first kind of, having them come to me and appear to me and be told to me and, combination of all those things, I'd go, seriously? Yeah. I mean, I got this pile of, and you want me to do that? And yeah, that's really what happens, because just because it's not some, long, involved, complicated, arduous, blah, 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 blah thing, it's like this amazing, magical Excalibur sword that just cleaves through all of the stuff. And as it cleaves through it's vibration that's carried between you that sings back up your arm and into your whole being and through the pile of whatever, metaphoric or literal the pile is, right, that you're working on this overwhelm. Parts of it in that cleaving, because you're the genesis of the power of doing that. Mm-hmm. And Excalibur comes through because that's the connection of your soul coming through. It's actually an energetic. Excalibur isn't actually an energetic, but it comes through. Plus, it's kind of cool, if you're going to take out the magical sword and you're going to get this pile of crap out of the way, do it with a magical sword, right? That's fun. but it shifts and changes the energetic of that which comprises the overwhelm. And it makes some dematerialize, it makes some sort and sift and transform in a different way. It seems to magically call assistance from places out of the blue that you never would have thought of, never occurred to even look for that, of all different kinds of assistance, resources, different things. And it's a wonderful, I guess maybe cosmic humor or a cosmic love, like a cosmic chocolate kiss of love, because it really is that simple. Now, most beings don't go for the simple the first round. They take the simple and they raise you with, 5 complicateds and 20 complicated squared and this, that, and the other thing, and they, ropey dope, some for a few minutes, some for a few hours, some for a couple decades, and they come back around and they go, wow, it really was that simple.
I was going to say, no fair describing me like that,
So now, simple does not mean not powerful. And simple does not mean, not tactical and incredibly laser-like efficiency and super duper, what's the word I'm looking for? Sophisticated in its abilities. It's just simple. Because, and here's the thing, part of all that complexity and not trusting that it's simple is that egoic, intellectual mind, that what we were taught and sold and thought of as that prize, that special, amazing prize up here, it's pretty much bullshit. Because when we use all of us, we get the real prize, which is incredibly smart, brilliant, get different linear words as you would use for it, but of the real character of that, not see, the other thing, and this is kind of an aside, not really related to this perhaps conversation, but that's it's a intentional ruse, an intentional big shiny candy sort of say, distraction that, is used through the training of the false constructs. And it, works really good because, hey, look at all those people out there.
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, yeah. All that, well, and then the training is self-perpetuated. So what I view is going on here is a bit of, for me anyway, self-deprogramming.
Yeah.
I think that's, worldwide, on all sorts of different levels. But even at that, even knowing, like in Lisa's case, even knowing that you're working on that, you still have overwhelm. So yeah, this has been really helpful.
And the pause and the breathe cannot be overstated.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
It's incredibly simple, to the point of being ridiculously silly, except that when you actually do it, when you own it and you do it and you immerse yourself and you stand fully in that space, wow, it's fresh air for the first time, and it's such it's this most incredible embrace. You could say it's a warm embrace because you've been cold and of the fear, or it's a cool embrace to kind of cool off your fevered mind that's been racing and all this stuff. But it's palpable. And in that space, in that pause, and in that breath, because they go together. It's Lisa's what Lisa was talking about. It's that. right? You can feel, and you will feel, if you even give it a whiff of a chance, right? If you fully step into it, okay, hang on, right? But if you even give it a whiff of a chance, you can feel the enormity and the magnitude and the magnificence of who you are, the totality of. And then you glance for a minute, at this wall that we've been using as our metaphor for the overwhelm, and you go, it's like this big now. And it's easy, and you can see, you just like a ribbon, you just pull the tails and it just opens right up. And that's the secret. That's the, you could think of maybe the movie The Secret or whatever it is, but that's why the control has been so pervasive and seemingly effortless, because we've seen the maze and the block of cheese and moving it through, and it's so simple, but we've never stood still enough to, even in the meditation, which there was, what was in the 80s, meditation all of a sudden seemed like come on the thing. It was this big new thing. And then there were books and classes and this and that. So again, it was what was it? It was just the party dress on the same old thing of a new thing, because people, were waking up to being pause and breathe and still. So let's put a razzmatazz on it, although it's quiet, right? But on meditation, and it's more distraction on the supposed going within kind of a thing. So if we go like this, they won't actually have time to go, because either they've done it wrong or they can't get it right, or you gotta stand and look this direction and breathe this, and or the right clothes. Of course, you got a meditation clothes to meditate properly, and all this whole myriad of things. So if you kind of stand back and you look at kind of how things have gone through, you go, it's fun. It's actually fun how comical, and how you can see the marketing, you can see the sales, you can see the whole thing that's laid up to that. But the genuine pause and the genuine breath within that is, there's so many ways you describe it, but it's magnificent. And it like the key in a lock, and that audible tumbler, as it kind of tumbles out of the way. That's kind of what I was saying. You'll see that the pile reorients itself,
Mm-hmm.
and it parts for you, and then you can take a few things, and others come in and help you with stuff just because it's helpful for them at that moment. There is no, I gotta then be owing somebody, because that's of course linear processing. But it's really delicious. And even if you stayed with the overwhelm, because that was your choice, if you have that moment of the pause and the breath, which illuminates the path for you, just that right there, you've traveled miles down the road of integration, of tuning into your quantumness, because it begets more of that.
Yes. Well, I wanted to say that the very first, before I ever met Lisa, before I ever met you, the very first thing I was trying on for size in my going within was that pause and that breath, and taking a moment, as most specifically when I was having those visceral reactions or feelings about anything, I was taking that moment, that pause, that breath to feel into, and why I was having that visceral reaction. So for me, that was the very beginning thing. And I think that of course led to the noticing, even though I hadn't framed it, or I had no perception of it in that manner at that point, like I do now, thanks to the two of you actually. And so that pause and that breath would seem to me like that's a very good first tool, regardless of the situation that one might find themselves in, especially, I guess, overwhelm, and especially, because overwhelm comes with a lot of visceral feelings as well. So it's kind of the same thing. So yeah, that's sort of feels like that's the first. That might be even first on the list of,
Well, you're mimicking, what just floated in, you're mimicking and this is purely a linear description because it's wholly inaccurate, but nonetheless, I'll go with it. You're mimicking the I am I, and one could say it's not correct, but one could say from linear, the beginning, of the expansion from source and going out in creation. It was that pause and breath. And it, kept reverberating and kept creating galaxies and multiverses. And
yeah.
It's a pretty powerful tool.
I should say so.
and yet dead damn simple. I mean, how more simple can that be? I think that's what that's more than likely. I have a well, no, it's not. I know we're going to find that almost all of what it's all dead simple, isn't it, Bees?
Well, it is. And what I, was a saying that I had for years, I don't use it that often anymore, but I knew down in the core that I was on to the right thing when it was simple and it was excruciatingly difficult. I mean, it was excruciatingly difficult at the same time. Like, I got it! That's it! This one's a keeper! And people go, what? And I said, no, that's it, because that's the balance, right? Right there in that moment, that was the quantumness of me and the holy linear, egoic mind of me, and they were, having this thing, and I knew it. When I could see those things, I had to work with it, and I could then go, wow, no, it's really, even if I miss half the time, it's incredibly powerful. But it was that kind of, it was duality. It was that polarity between the two that I thought, yeah, and when you kind of hold it in that breath and pause, it hit 0 point. And the locks click and it tumbles and it's like, wow. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
So go for the excruciatingly difficult. There's lots to mine in there. I'm not kidding. Absolutely, there's lots to mine in there. Or you could go simple. Okay, I'm going to get the hang, the flow, play with that. Yeah, okay, right, okay. And do it. And that is truly a choosing, because they're both win-win.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up anything.
Yeah. Well, that's true. May not feel like it's a win at some moments, but it's all in what you're choosing, so you're winning no matter what you're,
Right?
Yeah.
As you won your choice.
Yeah, that's right. You won your choice.
Whether you enjoy it or not. Well, that's entirely up to you, I guess.
Wow, this has been a great conversation.
So fun.
Was there anything that either one of you wanted to add to this one before we close this energetic envelope?
I think the two tools gave a lot to think of.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. You mastered that and you got it, so we're good.
The only thing I would add is that this works on anything, no matter what I would say, no matter what your metaphor is for that overwhelm.
Yeah.
It could be a physical stack of stuff. It could be things that you're playing with just conceptually. It could be energetics. It could be all sorts of, it works for all of it.
Yeah. Yes. That's especially that pause and breath. Absolutely. Okay, well, we will have all the usual things in all the usual places. And I urge everyone, of course, that wishes to participate in the conversation to please feel free to do so by the comments or the email addresses that can be found in the body of the show more section of this video. Till next time.
Much love.